Well, it's the nature of League One, Mark, that you go from one sort of challenge with Ipswich on Tuesday night to, I think it's fair to say, something completely different with going to Bristol Rovers at the weekend.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's another really well supported club, obviously different numbers, but a really well supported club, a place I haven't personally been to, so I'm quite looking forward to that. But I think the atmosphere is always good there. I think they've got a bit of a ticket offer going as well this weekend, so it'll probably up the numbers even more so. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting game. They had a positive result in the week in the trophy. I know they've changed the team quite a bit around, but yeah, that will probably give them some sort of focus towards our game at the weekend. And yeah, look, it's one to look forward to at the end of a fairly tough week for us, playing against two of the top teams, but one we want to try and go and give, but firstly, a really good performance in, and secondly, take something from the game. I think that's important for us off the back of the last couple of results. But Joey's teams will be hard to play against, as always, and really competitive and physical and aggressive, and we'll need to be ready for that because they're the sort of challenges that you face. So we'll get everybody around this morning and see how everybody is, see where we're looking, and then we'll train tomorrow before we hop on board the bus to travel down.
Yeah, you're right. It tends to be a pretty ferocious atmosphere at the Memorial Ground. They've got, I think, only Forest Green have conceded more goals at home, but I guess that record's a bit distorted by the fact they had the 6 against Lincoln.
Yeah, that game was crazy. That could have been 9-9. I think that was a mad game. But yeah, I think what you see with them is they've got some very, very good attacking players. Quite a few that have played in this league and we played against last year, or that have played a number of games in the league below. So we know a lot of the individuals quite well. I think the shape and structure of the team is probably up for debate a little bit. They've had a lot of injuries recently, so they've changed things around quite a bit. And so it's difficult to predict their starting probably 11 players and even the shape of their team, but I think we get an idea of the principles of how they want to play. They've got some real good quality in the team and some real good individuals, certainly high up the pitch. And Collins and Loft can cause you a problem. John Marquis, good experience, and then I could go for a lot of midfield players that would cause that are good technical players. So yeah, we'll have to make sure that we're ready for those and we get a good understanding into our players over the next couple of days of their players' strengths and where we feel we can hurt them, because it's up to us to go and force the game and take the game to them and see if we can get ourselves on the winning team.
Always tricky to make an assessment of the injury situation at this stage on a Thursday, but from what you were saying, back end of Tuesday night, aside from Brandon, there's a chance that everyone else who missed out on Tuesday could be involved for the weekend.
Well, Shiloh's back in today, so we'll see how he is. Joey and Harrison will train this morning, so we'll see how they are. There's no guarantee on any of those, being honest. Brandon's out. Jack Lancaster took an unnecessary and naughty tackle right at the end of the game, and he's really struggling, so he might be out. Everybody else, I think, came through the game okay. So as long as they can get through it, we need to check on a couple of that haven't played for a while just to see that they're okay. But between now and tomorrow, hopefully we'll get a really good idea of where we are. We probably won't know until this afternoon or maybe even tomorrow how some react this morning before we can really pick the team for the weekend. But I'm sure whatever team we put on the pitch, we can go and give them some problems, and that's obviously our aim.
Does Greg Taylor fit into that category of having not played so many games that you just have to take a careful look for the weekend?
Yeah, plus he's probably knackered from golf yesterday. 18 holes yesterday he played, so he's probably got more aches and pains in his back and shoulders than anywhere else. But he did well to get through 90 minutes. A really tough game for him Tuesday and for us, but yeah, he did well. So hopefully he can settle down. It's just how quickly he can recover from that. But he'll have done everything he can to get himself ready to go again. So we'll see where he's at this morning, but hopefully he's another good option for us at the weekend.
Yeah, that must feel like another good step for him, in that he's had this long road to recovery, but to go and do a big performance at a place like Ipswich, it almost feels like another box ticked off.
Yeah, and he did well at Portsmouth as well when we went there. It's two big games that he's come in on after a long while out of the team, and then it's just how quickly he can recover from those games. So that's what it will come down to, really. It can take a little bit of time when you're really chasing that fitness, and you've had a little bit of a disrupted pre-season off the back of it. It's all natural, really. It's going to take time to get back to that real regularity, but we've got a call to make whether A, he's okay, and then B, whether we select him, and that will be a little bit dependent on his physical condition going into the game, and also the fitness and condition of all the other defenders, because obviously we're potentially a little bit lighter in those areas this weekend.
I know you said over the summer, and I guess really it goes without saying that in an ideal world you'd love to have a more regular centre-back pairing, which really during your whole time here you never really have managed. It's been the same story this season. Do you think you could eventually head in that direction, or will it just be a case of you might have to mix and match your way through?
I know it'd be nice to, but that will come down to a physical condition and whether people stay fit, and then the consistency of a pairing that really gives us that chance. And we've had, like you say, over 2.5 years, God knows, it must be into double figures of centre backs that have played. So sometimes that's a consequence of having younger ones. We've rarely had 2 senior ones, and some of the consistency issues around younger players. It's just part of development that you want to change things, and that's the right thing to do as well. So that will take a little bit of time maybe, but eventually we'd like to get to that point. But the one thing that I'm always wary of is I believe in all of our players are able to play at the level and be competitive, firstly, and secondly, I'm not one to really moan about what is and isn't available, and you just make do with what you've got. And when players are fit or out of form, we're more than capable with the team that we've got. So I don't really want to make excuses around that at all, because all our players are good players that can play at this level. And the more often we can get a consistent team on the pitch, obviously that helps us. But that's almost impossible when you have the ridiculous start to the season we've had. Yet, we have a busy pre-season, then the first month's crazy, 10 games in 5 weeks, and then this month's crazy, 8 games this month, all to make sure we're not playing in November when 5,000 miles away there's another football tournament taking place. So it's all a bit mad really. You look across the league, loads of managers have got this same issue at the minute, where players are not quite fit or not ready and available, or can't put the games together, because it's just a consequence of playing a lot and having to play players sometimes in that first month of the season when they're not quite right to play and they need a bit more recovery time. But we have no say over the calendar, obviously, so you just get on with it and crack on, and I'm sure that whoever's fit for the weekend will go and give a real good account of ourselves and hopefully put in a performance that we can be proud of.
And just to reflect on the 5 subs change for this season, there's no doubt that it brings quite a significant extra challenge in certain games, Tuesday night being a good example. Do you feel as you go along, same with all of these challenges really, that you can find ways to deal with it? Do you feel you'll learn as you face some of these sides some ways in which you can react and deal with things?
Well, we've made more changes this year than ever actually, and we've made more than 3 quite often, and the impact of those has been good. So there's certain situations where that really plays in our favour, particularly when you're playing continually Saturday, Tuesday, and that can really help us. The reality is that rule favours the biggest teams. That's why it gets voted for. That's why the Premier League vote for it, because the biggest clubs say it's going to happen, and then we all bow down and follow suit with everybody else. So I understand why it happens, and it can be a way of managing the load of players, obviously. But at the same time, the best teams have the best squads and the most good players, and it's an obvious one that they can bring on real strength and quality. So I think we'll see times where we use them. Everyone thinks changes are always the right way. Actually, the biggest decision sometimes to make is to not make a change in a game when you know it's all right or you're in a good position. So I'm never one to really fuss or stress around that too much. There'll be days where we use 5, days where we use none, and when we play the best teams, they'll always have 5 top players, let's be honest, mainly championship quality players when it happens. And it'd be tough for anyone to disrupt the top 8 in this league at the minute, I think, as you look at the table. Wycombe are obviously really strong. Oxford will probably get going at some point and make a charge, but those ones are the biggest clubs, biggest squads, best squads, and I expect them to be there all season. And when we play against them, we'll always come up against a team that has that bit more strength in depth and quality than we've got. But that's just a reality of the league. It's one where we've got to try and compete to take points off of those, and then in all the other games see how many wins we can get.
Cool, that's great for me.